Greetings and peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. Now, the title of today's video will be the Western hypocrisy over the Ukraine situation. Now, just as a disclaimer that I represent myself only as a free man under free speech, and also the aspect of myself being from Pakistan is that I'm not here to take any sides, because even my nation has went against the Russians during the 1980 Soviet war in Afghanistan, and it was because of the Pakistanis why things happened the way that they did in that part of the region and world in terms of the defeat of the Soviets. So again, a disclaimer, this is not taking any sides or implying any kind of an agenda. This is just myself as a free man under free speech and the right to question everything in a society that seems to parrot whatever the trend or a bandwagon trend is going on at the moment. So the aspect of the hypocrisy that I see is, for so many years, probably since this nation has existed, there has been interventions in other foreign countries, which the founder of this nation, George Washington, has warned about, that once you start giving more importance to other nations beside your own, then that's when you will lose your sovereignty. And that this was one of his teachings that he put out there, the aspects of not going after power when he was giving kingship and he turned it away. So looking at George's example, America has really fallen astray in terms of making sure that it takes care of others before it takes care of its own citizens, who are hurting right now with the inflation, with the job market. Just so many situations that you can point out. People don't have enough money to take care of their stuff. The wages are still stagnant. Nobody wants to pay you. There are jobs, yes, but what good is it if you're getting paid peanuts? And there are homeless people out there. There's people that are suffering. There's so many things that are not good out there. Again, who does war benefit? It's the people at the top. And the media, I mean, you look at like how things happened in 2014 when everybody changed their picture to the French flag, right? But they don't know the history of hundreds of years of how the French and the British brutalized the people of Africa and the Middle East and colonized them and stole their resources and raped, pillaged, and murdered them for control. And even to this day, the leaders are groomed of those nations from French and British backgrounds, and that hidden power still remains, right? So if you're talking about breach of someone's sovereignty, the Western Triad that I'm showing the picture here of, I mean, basically it's hypocrisy, and it's casting the attention off of yourself. Just like in Iraq and Syria and so many nations that even the West has intervened. All of these three nations combined, not just putting the blame on Americans, but all three of these combined, who have done what they did for oil, for drugs, for natural resources. All the people here in the opioid epidemic died because all the drugs were coming from Afghanistan. They left their people behind to die in Afghanistan and suffered a global defeat. And they intervened in these countries and destroyed people's sovereignty, destroyed lives. In the Iraq war, there were WMDs, but it ended up being a lie. And people from both sides suffered, including those that joined the service from here, thinking that they were fighting for a cause. And those on the other side, civilians, 1 million plus Iraqis died. So why didn't the world sanction these three that I have listed in the picture for the atrocities that they have been committing for the last hundreds of years? Possibly longer than that, because if you really look at it, even the American conglomerate still traces back to the French and British empires. If you look at the founders and how they were connected to the City of London and the Hellfire Club and all these, it's still the same system in existence, and that's exactly what it is. So there's an agenda of division and war being pushed. Again, this is not to take sides, but teaching people to have some common sense. When you have the global cabal, what we know as the elite, the news, and this is the same news that has programmed you to hate people, hate Muslims, programmed you to support wars, support things which were not true. And even what Malcolm X told the American people, is that be careful that the news will make you love the oppressor and hate the oppressed. So be mindful of what's being shown to you. And right now we're in the same time frame where Bush was in his midterms in 2002, and this is a midterm year, 2022, and all year that year they pushed anthrax to basically get the acceptance of the public to intervene and go fight a war, right? Same thing happening now. It's election season, they're getting people all patriotic and hyped up. All the distractions, all the incompetence of the world leaders get swept to the side, and everyone is hailed as a hero, whoever is supporting the Ukrainian situation. And what's happening is by 2023, 24, it's most likely going to be some kind of a war, a global war. So if you really look at the Ethiopian calendar, their 2012 starts in the Gregorian 2020. And from 2012, or basically from 2020 through 2028 Gregorian, it's going to be so much change. And the world as we know it's going to change. And we see that with the education system, with the workplace, with the relationships. So many things are changing. But people have to use their common sense. If something really was about changing or helping the world, then it wouldn't be endorsed by big media and politicians and the military-industrial complex, the celebrities, because they're told what to push and what not to push. So have some common sense, please. I've seen enough. I grew up in America in the post 9/11 world, and I was thinking about not making this video, but I just felt so frustrated at humanity that these people have such a short attention span, and they keep falling for the same tricks over and over again, not knowing the people at the top are making fun of you. And that's why they call you dumb, useless eaters, because you keep falling into that same hamster in a wheel process. Now they're programming you the same with the media, just like they did in 2002. Hate Muslims, anthrax, hate Muslim, anthrax. So by 2003, Bush had enough moral support behind him to pull off that illegal war. And nothing was there except death and destruction. And these people are all demons, and they make pacts with demons, and that's why they have to do their wars to offer the sacrifice of innocent people and do what they do. So that's basically the type of situation that you're dealing with now, is that all of these people behind the scenes, they're friends, they push certain agendas and do what they do, right? It's like WWE. On screen there'll be fighting, and the good guy will be the bad guy, and then the bad guy will become the good guy. But behind the scenes, they're friends. You know what I mean? Just like in the 2004 presidential election with Kerry and Bush, they were shown to be opposites, but they were part of that same club from Yale University. And that's exactly what it is. People just don't have the common sense to see that everyone's changing their pictures to the flags. Nobody's realizing, okay, they're programming you for another war. They're programming you for more death, hatred, destruction, disunity. Why can't you all see that, for God's sake? Why can't you see that anything that's being endorsed heavily by all major companies, corporations, leadership, celebrities, do you think if it was really to help people, they would endorse that? What about Kashmir? What India is doing in Kashmir? What about what the Israelis are doing in Palestine? Right? Now all of a sudden, and those people get called all sorts of names. Oh, that there's an illegal invasion coming into Europe and all this stuff, because you're the ones that did that destruction to them, causing them to flee their homelands. But now, if you look at it from the European point of view, because unfortunately we are dealing with a global white supremacy and hegemony, now Ukrainians are being offered to go anywhere they want without any visa, while the other black and brown people of the world were suffering the same existence for God knows how many years under the Western imperialism, but nothing happened for them. This is not to go into the whataboutism conversation, right? It's about showing the hypocrisy, that you have to realize that there's a greater agenda at play that's being pushed here. And again, I'm no fan of either side, whether it's the Western Atlanticists or the Eastern Eurasians. Both have their equal footing of crimes and destruction that they both have committed equally in their policies and in their gains. So again, Like I've stated in the beginning, I'm not taking any sides. I'm just telling you to use your common sense and not to dwell into another war, right? Like this American president just had the State of the Union. He didn't address one single issue that the people need help with, right? And it's that same war rhetoric, and at the end he even says, let's go get him, and God bless our troops, and USA, USA. That same nonsense that they used against you. And that's basically it. Patriotism sometimes can be a disease. So think about the agendas that are being programmed against you. I see the same exact scenario taking place where 2002 you had the Bush midterms and he had enough moral support behind him, and they all year long on the media they just kept pushing propaganda and lies. They got through the midterms, and once he was there, they started their war, which will most likely be around the end of 2022 or into 2023, where some kind of major global conflict is inevitably going to occur. And what's going to happen? Those innocent people on both sides, whether the ones here in the service or those on the other side, they pay the price for that. And they have to follow orders which are inhumane. So just don't feed your energy into this, because there's also a spell. Everything has a spell, demonic spell to it also, where if everyone is thinking about war and destruction and Ukraine simultaneously in the world at the same time, you're feeding that aggregate. Imagine if all of these corporations and media people, they told you, everyone please promote world peace. And imagine if 7 billion people in the world, instead of thinking about Ukraine and war and destruction, the low vibration stuff, they promoted peace and unity and happiness. Imagine if that energy was pushed out collectively into the ether. How the world would change overnight. But they don't want that. And it's just sad for me to see this division being pushed of us versus them. I warned people many times that the agents of chaos exist in all races, religions, creeds, and world and organizations of the world. There is a fight between the light and the darkness, and you must take heed to what is being propagated to you. And I tried my best to not speak about this subject, but I have to. So think about the actors on all sides that benefit from any given situation, and see, who is it that's suffering? Right now, it's the people that are suffering on both sides. What do the people of Russia have to do with the decisions of their leader? Those people are suffering. The ones that are trying to put food on the table, the ones that are trying to live peacefully, take care of their families and children. Same thing on the other side. So these people at the top, they have their own agenda. Don't feed into their BS. And it's just, you have to be non-compliant. And that's basically it. Because the system runs is because the people are compliant. It's like the movie The Bug's Life, where they talk about the ants and the little ants. And once the ants wake up, there goes the colony, because the ants are the workers. So you are being told the truth, even in these movies, about how things work. But you continue to give your energy and compliance and your thought forms, because energy goes where attention flows. And I mean, they got everybody thinking about war and destruction, but they don't want to point out their own atrocities that they've been committing for the last hundreds of years, even in the last 50 to 70 to 100 years, to be exact and precise. And all the governments that the U.S. has toppled and interfered with, causing the death and destruction of millions of people around the world. Same with the French and the British, who are still controlling their shadow empires with their leaders and people that they groom to lead their countries, while the people below them live in severe poverty, third world nations. So if you really want to tell people to stop getting involved in someone else's business, these three should be the last people to say something like that, right? Every single country in the world has been interfered with by these three. And they have the nerve to say, why is somebody else doing what they're doing? Why? Because there's always an agenda. Now, if you put yourself in somebody else's shoe, right, we don't know what's going on. It's just like the news, that all the lies that get promoted, the fake news on social media and the internet. They talked about the Snake Island people, then that turned out to be a lie. The WMD in Iraq thing turned out to be a lie. So those are red flags. You need to pay attention to that, about who's being portrayed as evil, who's being portrayed as good. Have common sense and say no to war, right? Because that's what they're pushing you towards. That's what they're pushing you towards: hatred, division. They want you to fight and destroy each other, and that should not be the case. And again, I have to reiterate, and I have to keep reiterating this: I'm not on either side, because it was my nation, Pakistan, and it was because of Pakistan's effort that the Soviet Union collapsed, through the efforts that were placed in Afghanistan, even though the Pakistanis got no credit for it. So that's basically it. You have to live and let live. Anywhere where you see destruction, death, and division being promoted, just know that there is a greater agenda at play. There is a greater agenda at play, and you must be mindful of the information that's being given to you, how a certain world point of view is being shaped in your thinking. Everyone is projecting this negativity and war and death and destruction into the ether. That's what they want. They don't want positivity, love, and happiness. So just use some common sense, please. And just know the tactics that were used against you in the past. And again, think about the people who should be the last ones to say anything about somebody else interfering in somebody else's country. I mean, you read the history of these three that I have in the picture, then you'll know why I'm saying the things that I'm saying. So that's it. And at the end, good always wins. So no matter how big and bad you are, the good always wins, because God is on your side. So continue to pray that peace prevails in the world. Continue to project that peace, love, and unity and high vibrations to counteract these demons that are running the world stage today. And let's hope for the good always prevailing over the darkness. So with that, I hope you were able to get something out of my message. And again, I reserve my rights as a free man under free speech, without taking any sides, but teaching you to be a free thinker and use some common sense for God's sake. So thank you, and much love to all of you.